Good morning, everyone. I'm doing a reaction video. It's between Patrick Bet-David from Valuetainment, which is an incredible channel, 4.7 million subscribers, and Richard Coffin, who's the Plain Bagel. He's a Canadian based out of Ottawa, CFA. He works in the industry. So that's important to keep in mind. He's got 770,000 subscribers, which is an excellent channel. Really encourage you to go to Patrick Coffin's site. Incredible wealth of knowledge. So even though I'm going to be critical of him on this one aspect, his site is excellent. He gives away a ton of education and information. I really encourage people that have interest in finance and financial services and financial literacy, subscribe. You should. So I'm not taking anything away from his work, but and we'll get to exactly who Patrick Bet-David is in a moment further down the video. Let's take a look at what this reaction video is all about.
Vanguard, BlackRock, pretty much running everything.
This has become a really popular misunderstanding. Yes, BlackRock and Vanguard are massive asset managers. They have over $17 trillion in assets under management, and together with State Street are the top shareholder in 88% of the S&P 500. But they don't secretly run the world because that money isn't theirs.
Okay, so I'll stop there because first, it's a straw man argument saying they don't secretly run the world or rule the world. That's not what anyone's saying, but anyone who's legitimate is saying they have massive influence. And yes, they do. So I've heard this from brokers even in town when they say it's not their money, so they don't have that much say. It doesn't matter. They are the stewards of that money. They have the voting rights of that money. They go into a boardroom with trillions of dollars and they're investing and they're allocating that money. It matters. So, and they direct invest, but they also have the indexes, like Patrick's saying. So a large amount of their business is these index funds, and that's what's so handy about them. And they allocate them as they see fit. And a lot of it would be automated to some degree. But that doesn't mean that they don't have the voting rights, which they do. And they specifically, it's part of their business. They have a whole stewardship program about it. So let's move on a little bit further, and I'm going to back this up here at the very end.
BlackRock and Vanguard only own a few $100 billion in total assets, but the $17 trillion is client money, the millions of people and institutions who invest in their funds. And even as a top shareholder in these companies, that doesn't give them control over them because their large positions are still minority stakes. In fact, they don't even control where most of this money gets invested. The majority of their funds are passively managed based on external indices.
Okay, I'm going to stop here too. So yeah, they don't have controlling interests. So this is misguided or misinformation or just trying to take you down a different path by purposely not looking. Yeah, then none of them, say for example, here we're looking at Apple. Vanguard owns almost 8%. Yeah, they don't own 51%. They don't have voting say, but they are the top owner. Vanguard also owns part of BlackRock and BlackRock owns part of Vanguard. BlackRock also owns Apple. And then BlackRock funds below here as a fund also owns, and they both have indexes that put money into Apple. So their ownership of Apple is quite substantial. They're the top. They're the number 1 and 2. They are the top owners of Apple share. So if you're trying to tell me that someone who owns 8%, just Vanguard alone, walks into your boardroom and they say, listen, we have a vision and we want to make sure you're on board. This has happened all along the last 10 years, lots of mainstream news articles about Vanguard or BlackRock firing presidents and CEOs or board members that aren't in line with their vision. This is not a conspiracy theory. It's easy to go look up. Patrick could have done that very quickly instead of just picking up the Wikipedia. So yes, not understanding that an 8% might sound small to someone who doesn't understand anything about finance or the stock market. That's a massive amount of Apple. That's a huge dollar amount. And if for some reason Vanguard went in and didn't like what Apple was doing, and they say, fine, we're going to exit our position with you, that means they're also going to exit the fund, the index funds as well. So between them and BlackRock and all the indexes, maybe that's 15, maybe that's 17%, maybe it's just under 20. That is then an absolutely critical blow to any company. 7% is a critical blow to a company like Apple. And they announce, we're selling our position. That would send a company like Apple into a tailspin. So this isn't hyperbole. It's just how markets work. And I don't think anyone could defend that if a company like Vanguard or BlackRock walked into a boardroom and decided to sell the entire ownership of their company because they didn't like the way it was being run, that it wouldn't cause an entire meltdown. So let's move on to the next.
So if you're wondering why no one credible is raising the alarm over BlackRock and Vanguard's secret control of everything from the media to the military, it's because they knew better. And if you really want to get to the end of the rabbit hole, look up who owns BlackRock and Vanguard, the master puppeteers behind it all.
Okay, I'm going to stop there because he's saying that Patrick Bet-David is not credible. He's unfortunately far more credible than Mr. Coffin because he's actually been an incredible entrepreneur who's built up a $200 million net worth, building risk management companies, and then a huge channel. So that's the wrong approach, is to attack someone like that who's done it. I mean, he's done it. He's worked with funds. He's worked with some of the biggest asset managers. He's been in boardroom discussions with some of these companies. So that is maybe he did. I don't think he means it that way. But once again, I'm not worried about what the intent here is. But to call him not credible is silly. You can go back yourself. He mentions look at the people. Yeah, go look at the people. That doesn't take any effort as well. I don't know why he brought that up, because if you go look at the people, the owners, and then start looking at the cross relationships, that's going to lead you to, it's like a sleuth. It's going to make things much more clear what's happening rather than think, oh, this is some wild conspiracy. It'll actually shore things up to show you how intricate this web is and how tightly held it is. So I think that maybe he's calling your bluff. So yes, I would look up who owns these, then look up their relationships and go from there. But more importantly, let's go to the Harvard Law School Forum on corporate governance, where they have a piece here called "Getting Along with BlackRock." So this is, his name is John Wilcox. He's from Morrow Sodali, which is an advisory firm in the States. So at this point, I think it's 2017, and he's speaking with Michelle Edkins, global head of BlackRock's investment stewardship team. So we've got the quote right up here. I'll let you read that right now while I'm kind of mentioning some of the interesting parts about this message, because there's several key points to this. One, BlackRock explicitly says that they work on behalf as long-term owners, not as traders or activists or market opportunists. They see themselves as de facto permanent shareholders of these companies in the indexes they track. So this isn't just the direct investment they have with their funds, but on the passive indexes that Mr. Coffin was talking about, they are saying they have a permanent interest and de facto, they're a shareholder, that they're having a say in that. They also mentioned their portfolio companies have long-term strategies relating to ESG, and that for 2018, that would be a key issue whenever he's further having the conversation with her. Their actions are directly underlying the economic interests of the beneficial owners who BlackRock is entrusted to manage. That BlackRock has a fiduciary responsibility as part of a stewardship team to make sure that governance, sustainability, and long-term financial performance are managed. So once again, this is in the indexes. This isn't in the direct investments. Fourth, their indexing does not mean that they don't take an active approach in proxy voting, as I was mentioning before, and they don't use advisory firms outside of that. On the contrary, they're active, and they work on behalf of their holders to exercise with that fiduciary care. This goes on and on, this point from the Harvard Law School Forum, that once again isn't very hard to look up, and points out how in practice and in reality these relationships work, and how if you're outside of it, I mean, I worked at Merrill Lynch. Once you're outside, you can speak freely about these things. I'm never going to get hired by an investment bank or one of these funds, so I've got no skin in the game. So I wanted to do this just to kind of highlight a very controversial topic that isn't really, because it takes absolutely no effort to look at who's involved, to look at ESG, woke agenda, progressive movement, how it came down from these big companies, from WF. They plainly pointed out there, they have editorial news comments, they have it in their annual shareholder discussions. It's not a lot of research that needs to be done to track any of this down. And once again, just like Mr. Coffin said, I encourage you, go do the work. But unfortunately, he's dead wrong on this one. And Patrick David got the big win. So make sure you come to the website. We've got a new look. We're really active and we want to engage people on these kinds of conversations, not just on specific stocks and specific sectors, but on overall economic themes. We want to get people in together, talking back and forth, sharing ideas and growing and learning, not only so they can possibly make money or find opportunities for investing, but to get this dialogue going, get the mindset, do the work right now so that we set ourselves up for a big win here down the road. Everyone come check us out, sign up, subscribe. Look forward to talking to you.